In the late 18th century, on the southern coast of China, a girl named Qing Shih was born into poverty. Her childhood was unremarkable, marked by salt air, wooden boats, and the sound of waves against the shore. Her family lived by fishing, surviving on the rhythm of the tides. Life offered few choices for girls of her class. Most would marry early or labor in coastal towns. But Qing Shih's beauty and sharp mind set her apart, and those very traits would lead her toward a destiny neither she nor anyone around her could imagine. As a teenager, she was sold to a floating brothel. It's one of many that served sailors and traders along the Pearl River Delta. There, amid the noise and smoke of the docks, she learned to observe quietly, to read men's intentions, and to understand the complex networks of trade, smuggling, and corruption that linked the sea to the land. Her intelligence did not go unnoticed. Around the year 1800, she met Zheng Yi, a powerful pirate commander who controlled a fleet that raided between Vietnam and Hong Kong. Zheng Yi was impressed by her composure and her ability to speak with tact and confidence. He proposed marriage, and she accepted, on the condition that she would share in his command and decision-making. When Qing Shih became Madame Zheng, later known as Ching Shih, her life transformed. She stepped into a brutal world dominated by men and violence, yet she navigated it with calculation rather than force. Together, she and Zheng Yi forged alliances among rival pirate groups, uniting them under a single banner, the Red Flag Fleet. Through shrewd diplomacy, she persuaded competing clans to cooperate, and through strict organization, she brought structure to chaos. Zheng Yi handled the raids. Ching Shih managed the logistics, negotiations, and finances. Within a few years, their combined fleet grew to hundreds of ships and tens of thousands of men, creating an informal maritime empire that controlled the South China Sea. Then, in 1807, tragedy struck. Zheng Yi's ship was caught in a typhoon and destroyed. For many women, widowhood in such a violent world would have meant disappearance. Yet Ching Shih refused to vanish into mourning. With her husband gone, dozens of ambitious lieutenants expected to seize control of the fleet. Instead, she asserted her authority with calm precision. She called a meeting of all major commanders aboard the flagship and declared that the sea rewarded not sentiment, but strength. She positioned herself as Zheng Yi's rightful successor and named his adopted son and protege, Chung Po Sai, as her second-in-command. The gesture balanced legitimacy with continuity, and through a mixture of diplomacy and intimidation, she secured the allegiance of the entire armada. At the age of barely 30, Ching Shih commanded roughly 70,000 men and 1,800 ships, making her the most powerful pirate leader in recorded history. Her leadership relied on order. She understood that a fleet of that size could not survive on greed alone. To maintain discipline, she established a comprehensive legal code, the Pirate Code. Every member of the Red Flag Fleet was bound by its rules. Loot was to be registered and distributed according to rank. Theft from the common treasury, or from civilians, was punishable by death. Acts of violence against women were forbidden. If a pirate wished to marry a female captive, he had to treat her with respect and fidelity. This disobedience to superiors or abandonment of duty resulted in execution. These measures, though harsh, transformed the Red Flag Fleet from a mob into an organized naval power. Under her command, the fleet operated with astonishing efficiency. Entire convoys of merchant ships fell under her control, and even coastal villages negotiated for protection rather than risk destruction. Through bribery and intimidation, she built a network of informants within ports and government offices. The result was that her fleet always seemed to know when imperial patrols were coming, in which merchant ships carried the richest cargo. For several years, the Qing dynasty tolerated her indirectly, hoping that she might contain rival pirates or foreign smugglers. But her power soon became impossible to ignore. By 1809, she had grown bold enough to challenge both the Chinese Imperial Navy and the European powers that traded in the region. Her ships intercepted Portuguese and British merchants, forcing them to pay tribute to sail safely. The empire, embarrassed and losing revenue, finally resolved to crush her once and for all. The imperial court assembled a massive coalition. Chinese warships supported by Portuguese vessels from Macau and Western mercenaries armed with modern cannons. Yet Ching Shih's intelligence network warned her in advance. Rather than face them in open water, she used geography and strategy to her advantage. She lured the larger enemy fleet into the Gulf of Tonkin, a maze of narrow inlets and hidden reefs known only to her sailors. There she ambushed them. Her smaller, faster ships struck with fire arrows and explosives, setting the enemy's gunpowder stores ablaze. The resulting inferno turned the night sky red. When dawn came, much of the Imperial fleet was destroyed, and the survivors fled. This victory cemented her legend. For the next year, the Red Flag Fleet dominated the South China Sea without challenge. But success also brought instability. As the Empire increased rewards for surrender, rival captains began to waver. Ching Shih understood that every reign, even one on the ocean, had its tide. She had achieved everything possible through force. The next step required foresight. In 1810, she made a decision no pirate had ever dared. She sought peace, not as a defeated criminal, but as an equal negotiator. She approached the Qing authorities with a bold offer: the full surrender of her fleet in exchange for complete amnesty and the right for her officers to retain their wealth and ships. The officials, wary of further humiliation, agreed. When she appeared before them in Guangzhou, witnesses described her as dignified and composed, dressed not as a pirate but as a noblewoman. The government accepted her terms, and the most powerful pirate confederation in history dissolved without another battle. Following her retirement, Ching Shih married Chung Po-sai, the man who had stood beside her through war and negotiation. The couple settled in Canton, turning their knowledge of trade and navigation toward legitimate business. They operated shipping and gambling ventures, living comfortably and maintaining quiet influence within the port's economy. While many of her former subordinates joined the Imperial Navy or returned to fishing, Ching Shih herself avoided the fate that awaited most pirates: execution or betrayal. She lived into old age, dying peacefully in 1844. Her death marked the end of an extraordinary life, one that spanned from servitude to sovereignty. Historians who studied her later struggled to categorize her. Some viewed her as a criminal genius, others as a proto-admiral whose administrative discipline rivaled that of contemporary navies. She had commanded more ships than Blackbeard, Calico Jack, and Bartholomew Roberts combined, yet her name remained lesser known in the West, partly because her empire existed far from the romanticized Caribbean. In truth, her achievements were far greater. She transformed piracy, often chaotic and self-destructive, into a structured system that challenged one of the world's largest empires. Her pirate code represented a remarkable form of maritime law, one emphasizing fairness, loyalty, and collective responsibility. It prefigured naval regulations that would later appear in state-run fleets. Under her, the Red Flag Fleet functioned less as a band of thieves and more as a self-governing society, where merit could outweigh birth and discipline was sacred. Equally significant was her role as a woman commanding absolute authority in a patriarchal world. Early 19th century China offered few avenues for female power outside the domestic sphere, yet Ching Shih built and sustained an empire at sea through intellect and resolve. That she relied not on superstition or brutality but on negotiation, logistics, law qualities that later historians would associate with effective statecraft. Her legacy endured quietly along the southern coasts. Fishermen's tales spoke of her red-sailed armada appearing in mist to warn of storms. Local storytellers recalled her insistence on fairness and her uncanny ability to predict weather and tides. Even foreign merchants, who once feared her, eventually respected her as a formidable tactician rather than a mindless raider. By the time of her death, the world around her had changed. Steam power was beginning to replace sails. Western empires were expanding their control over Asian trade routes. The age of great sailing pirates was ending. Yet Ching Shih's career had already proven a final, unmatched chapter in that era, a demonstration that discipline and intellect could rival any navy's might. Today's scholars and writers describe her as the most successful pirate in history. She was never captured, never defeated in battle, and ended her life wealthy and free, a feat unparalleled among pirates anywhere. Her story illustrates that power can emerge from the margins, and that leadership, when grounded in vision and order, can thrive even in lawless waters. More than 2 centuries later, her life continues to inspire interpretations in books, films, and documentaries. She embodies the paradox of rebellion and governance, a woman who conquered through piracy, yet ruled with the mind of a statesman. Her empire of sails and discipline vanished with time, but her legend remains anchored in the waters she once commanded. Ching Shih's journey from a poor girl in Guangdong to the undisputed queen of the South China Sea stands as one of history's most extraordinary transformations. She proved that brilliance needs neither noble birth nor divine favor. The sea, vast and impartial, became the stage upon which she wrote her own law. And in that law, carved in the memory of sailors and historians alike, lives the truth of her life. She was not born royal, she made herself one.